Hey folks, it's time to talk about punctuating dialogue, which is not easy, um, and we've got to do it because we have a lot of folks writing characters now. I love that we're writing this. Dialogue has many details to it. Number one, most important, is that every time there's a new speaker, they get a new paragraph. So here we go. In this part of the story that I'm writing, the person who is I, the person who's saying their name, who's telling the story, lives in a boarding house, and she has just met upstairs at the boarding house the new renter. And so now they're down in the kitchen talking to each other. So here we go. She's talking to us. Her name is Abby. Down in the kitchen, he'd been effectively pinned down by Marcia, who had come at him with a book. Jenna was putting a full plate beside him while the fearless toddler climbed onto his lap for her treat. I grabbed my own salad with plenty of beans and sat listening to him render Winnie the Pooh. By the time Marcia was satisfied, the new fellow looked a bit stunned. All right. Here, my character, Abby, is speaking, and it's like a change of energy. She's narrating what's going on, then she's speaking. Well done. We exist to entertain Marcia. Now it's a different speaker. It's the guy Gav responding to her. Resistance is futile, he asked, and I laughed. His eyes crinkled. I leaned forward and held out my hand. We met last night, so that's got to be a new paragraph because it's a new speaker. We went back to Abby speaking. We met last night. I'm Abby Wheeler. He's about to speak, so I'm going to start a whole nother paragraph. He took it. I'm Gav Saziski. I noticed your address. Nice to meet you. Oh, and she speaks, so another new paragraph. Can we skip the part where I didn't grab my bathrobe up there? Best to clear it right out. That's Abby talking to herself or to us, the audience. And now we're switching emphasis again. This is a lot of paragraph breaks, and that's normal. This absolutely desired. It makes it easier on the reader to tell someone new is speaking. Gav shook his head. Never happened. He indicated his plate. They're serious, because the plate got filled up really high. Okay. And now we're back to Abby speaking, and then she's going to literally speak out loud. I watched Tim sheepdog his various nieces and nephews. I could never remember how many there were officially. Out of the kitchen and up the stairs. They're serious. Just wait for Friday night fish and chips. Okay, so number one, each new quotation and the words that go with it. He asked, I laughed, his eyes crinkled. That's part of this guy is what he's doing. Gets a new paragraph, even if they're really short paragraphs, because dialogue is like that. It goes very quickly back and forth. Okay. Inside the quotation marks are the sentences that the people speak. If there's a microphone and it would pick up the words, the quotation marks go around it. People don't have to speak in complete sentences. Inside quotation marks is some place that you can say ain't or y'all or him and me went to the whatever. And I won't correct you because that's the way your character is speaking, not your formal, written, fancy academics. Okay. So Abby here is speaking in brief sentences. Well done. So it's got a capital and a period. That's her complete sentence. We exist to entertain Marcia. Capital, period, quotation mark. Because she said the complete sentence, the period is inside the quotation marks. Or, in this case, the question mark. Now, I did something there. Ooh, it's okay. I did it out of order. If he had said this and not asked it, I would put a comma here. If there's period here because there's no more sentence, comma here because there is more sentence. The sentence is, he said thing and I laughed. Okay. So I'm going to change that over to a statement. Resistance is futile, he said, and I laughed. His eyes crinkled. That's kind of nice. That's my way of telling you that this guy has smile lines at the corner of his eyes. I leaned forward and held out my hand. There's another comma on the outside of the quotation marks. What's happening here? The words said out loud are inside quotation marks in that case and in this case. The comma is separating the words from the narration, or the narration from the words, and the comma goes immediately after whichever comes first. So I leaned forward and held out my hand, comma, we met last night. I'm Abby Wheeler. She speaks in complete sentences because it's hard for me to write people who don't. He took it, her hand, right? I'm Gab Szyszewski. I noticed your address. Nice to meet you. That's not a period. That's not a properly punctuated. That's the way he speaks, little sentence pieces. I noticed your address. Nice to meet you. All in the same breath. And she asks a question. This capital letter tells me that, like, this is the entire sentence and I didn't put in I said. This is the entire sentence and I didn't put in I said. She starts a brand new sentence that is best to clear it right out. She's thinking inside her head or talking to us in the audience, so it's her personal voice. She doesn't say, I thought that it was best to clear it right out. She's kind of talking to herself. It's a thing that this character does. Okay. Gab shook his head. Full sentence stopped. Never happened. Full sentence with the period inside the quotation marks, which means this is also a separate sentence. He indicated his plate, comma, they're serious. I didn't say he indicated his plate and he said. You don't need it. You can use it for clarity. Go back and read aloud, see if you need clarity. But he indicated his plate. They're serious. His thing that he said begins with a capital letter. All right, I'm working all the way through here. I watched Tim sheepdog the various nieces and nephews. I could never remember how many there were officially. Out of the kitchen and up the stairs. Ooh, maybe I'll talk about this in the next little video. End of sentence. Two sentences inside the quotation marks. So, the quotation marks are only around the spoken words. Every time the speaker changes, we get a new paragraph. And if it's resistance is futile, he said, I'll temporarily put a period there. I laughed. Resistance is futile, he said. There's a comma between the first element, resistance is futile, and the second element, no matter which one of them is the quotation, and the comma gets joined right onto the first one, even if that puts it inside the quotation marks. Interesting side note. I leaned forward and held out my hand. We met last night, I'm Abby Wheeler. So we met last night, I'm Abby Wheeler, are sentences that she said. Great. I leaned forward and held out my hand and said this, period. Theoretically, there's a period outside her here that ends this sentence, because this period is the end of this sentence. And some folks want to put a period here, which is the end of this sentence, and I understand that, but you can see how very confusing it would be. So what we do, once there's a period, We don't have to pile them on. All right. Thank you.